For many college football fans, especially once we got late in the season last year, South Carolina was a surprise team. They knocked off Tennessee, knocked off Clemson, and simplified the college football playoff picture for us last year. But what that really did was give South Carolina a whole lot to build on heading into 2023. Expectations have risen for this program, so will South Carolina be an SEC contender in 2023? Or are the Gamecocks going to fall from their miraculous end to last season? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel. Prediction season is here, continuing with SEC predictions, but I'm predicting all 133 FBS level college football teams, which means I'm doing your favorite team. So why don't you go and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when your favorite team gets uploaded. But you can do more than that to help me support my channel. You're doing one right now by watching this video. You can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, really anything you can think of to help support the channel would mean a lot to me. But I digress. Let's talk about South Carolina in 2023. That's what you clicked on this video for. Hey, how do preview predictions work this season? We're going to go through a roster overview. We're going to take a look at players the team has lost, that they have returning, and that they have coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class as well. And then we're going to go ahead and game by game preview and predict all of South Carolina's games for 2023. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the South Carolina Gamecocks in 2023, of course, head coached by Shane Beamer. We'll talk about some of the highlights on the coaching staff a little bit. But let's start out with the quarterback position here for South Carolina. Spencer Rattler returns. 3,000 yards, 66% completion percentage last season for South Carolina, although his touchdown to interception ratio left a little something to be desired, right? Only 18 touchdowns and 12 interceptions for Rattler last year, and that we know Spencer Rattler can be a much better player than that. We've seen flashes of what Spencer Rattler can really be, and South Carolina is going to hope for a lot better of a touchdown-interception ratio from Spencer Rattler this year if they're going to want to be true SEC contenders. Luke Doughty is going to be that backup in there as well. He also returns. In the running back room, you do lose your leading rusher in Marshawn Lloyd, the leading rusher for the Gamecocks last year, 111 carries, 573 yards, and led the team with 9 rushing touchdowns. You also lose a depth piece in the running back room in Christian Beal-Smith. Who do you return, though? Juju McDowell comes back, was the 3rd leading rusher on this team last year. And also DeCarrion Joyner, who was a depth piece last year, was used at wide receiver and running back, probably going to be used as a running back in 2022. But they do get a transfer coming in, and I'm blanking on where he transferred in from, but projected, according to ourlads.com, to be the 2nd running back to really be that backup behind Juju McDowell is Mario Anderson, a 3-star rated transfer according to 24/7. When you look in the wide receiver room, you do lose your 3rd and 2nd leading receivers, respectively. Josh Vann had 296 yards, 3 touchdowns last year, and Jalen Brooks, 33 catches, 504 yards, just 1 touchdown for him last season, though. Who do you return? Well, you do return your top target at wide receiver, and Antoine Wells is coming back. 928 yards, 6 touchdowns for the team last year, as well as Amarian Brown and Xavier Legette all come back. You also get a transfer coming in over from Memphis, a grad transfer, 3-star rated, and Eddie Lewis should be big for the wide receiver core as well. In the tight end room, well, you lose just some absolute beast in the tight end room. Jaheim Bell was a great tight end receiving, was 2nd on the team in receiving, but also was 2nd on the team in rushing last year. They really did use him as a running back when they needed to. And Jaheim Bell has since transferred to another program. Nate Adkins is gone, as well as Austin Stogner gone as well. Stogner going back, of course, to Oklahoma. So when you take a look, all 3 of those tight ends had over 100 receiving yards last year, and it leaves something to be desired there. Don't worry, they get a couple high-profile transfers coming in, and Trey Knox over from Arkansas, and then Joshua Simon, a 4-star rated transfer out of Western Kentucky, and those will be the 2 guys leading the tight end room this year, among some other transfers they got out of the portal as well. Offensive line-wise, they lose Javon Gwynn and Eric Douglas. However, they are returning Jalen Nichols, Ja'Kai Moore, and Vershawn Lee. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, where you lose a very talented defensive lineman in Zach Pickens. 42 tackles, 2.5 sacks for him last year, as well as MJ Webb. A little bit of a depth piece on the defensive line was really good for them last year. You're going to return Tonka Hemingway, who led the team last year with 4 sacks, as well as Alex Huntley, Jordan Strachan. Again, I apologize for any mispronunciation. Strachan, however you say it, last name, I apologize. And TJ Sanders all come back. You're also getting a transfer in over from, let me fact check this real quick. Getting a transfer in Elijah Davis, my apologies. This is the community college transfer they're getting. I don't know why I blanked on that for so long. East Mississippi Community College, the 3rd-rated community college player, according to 24/7. Then you're also getting an Ole Miss transfer coming over as well, whose name is Jaron Willis. Should put in some time there as well. Linebacker room, you lose Sherrod Green, Jordan Birch, Gilbert Edmond, and Brad Johnson, all of which were, I believe, top 10 tacklers for this team last year. You're going to return Debo Williams and Mohamed Kaba, and then you get a freshman in Grayson Howard, I believe around the 180th rated recruit, according to 24/7, to help bolster that linebacker room. And then in the defensive back room, well, you lose a very talented defensive back in Cam Smith. He is gone. Darius Rush and Devontae Reed also losing, or also gone off the Gamecock team as well. But Nick Imanwari, the leading tackler from the team last year, is coming back. Marcellus Dial, who was phenomenal for this team last year, 12 pass defended, 3 picks, both of which led the team in those categories. And DQ Smith will come back for this team. Your Gamecocks are coached by Shane Beamer. The offensive coordinator is Dowell Loganes, and the defensive coordinator is Clayton White. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the South Carolina Gamecocks schedule for 2023. If a game's at home for South Carolina, it's going to be underlined. If a game's on the road, it's going to be in italics or the slanted text, and neutral site games are listed accordingly. If a game's in green, it's a game I see South Carolina being able to win fairly easily. If it's a game in yellow, it's going to be a very close competitive game, a game South Carolina could lose, but I still do see them winning. And then red is just a straight-up loss. So let's predict South Carolina's schedule in 2023, starting off with a battle of the Carolinas here. North Carolina versus South Carolina in Charlotte, week 1. I think this is going to be a heck of a game and has the potential to be a top 25 matchup, if not very, very close to it. I've already spoken on what South Carolina has. You can go back and re-listen to the roster preview. But North Carolina's got one of the best quarterbacks in the nation in Drake May. However, he is losing some weapons, and the thing that I think has plagued North Carolina for so long is the coaching staff. I'm just not super confident in the coaching staff for North Carolina, and while I think that's going to be a pretty quality team out of the ACC, I don't think they're going to match up to what South Carolina is going to bring on the offensive and defensive end. Time for Spencer Rattler to show out. Big test in week 1. I think the South Carolina Gamecocks squeak by the Tar Heels and get a close win on a neutral site field to start out 1-0. Easy win here against Furman. I don't need to speak more on that. The Paladins have no chance against the Gamecocks. So the Gamecocks start out 2-0 before going on the road to play Georgia. South Carolina may be able to give Georgia a little bit of a fight here, and it's a game where I would maybe watch out. Like, South Carolina can make some big plays, and I think they have the potential to hang in this one, but they're not going to keep up with the reigning back-to-back national champions. There's just no way. South Carolina not going to win on the road against the Georgia Bulldogs, so they pick up their first loss of the year. Mississippi State is another interesting team out of the SEC coming into this year. I think that defense is going to be pretty solid, although I do still have some questions in certain position groupings about that defense. The offense as well, with Will Rogers coming back, Jaquavius Marks, but not really a whole lot to work with in the wide receiver room. And first-year head coach, I'm wondering how his system is going to work out there, I believe, under Zach Arnett, former defensive coordinator. I got South Carolina winning a pretty close one here. Too many question marks for me about Mississippi State. Not saying South Carolina doesn't have some, but with this game being at home, I think it's a game South Carolina is going to walk away from and win. Then you go on the road to play Tennessee. Tennessee's got a really good quarterback over there in Joe Milton. What was tops in some length passes category. He had like some odd number, like 6 or 7 50-yard passes, which ranked top 10 in the nation, and he only really started 2 games. Joe Milton, is losing his top 2 targets, but Tennessee's got a lot to work with over there. I like what Josh Heupel is doing. I don't see South Carolina going on the road and beating Tennessee. Too much firepower on that Tennessee offense for the South Carolina defense to handle. South Carolina picks up their second loss of the year. Then you get your bye week. So after a tough game against Tennessee, you get your bye week. You get to come back home and play the Florida Gators. I've spoken on Florida a lot already. And I'm just not super confident in what Billy Napier has got this year. Period, blank, end of story. I kind of feel like this Florida team is going to disappoint a lot of Gator fans and a lot of other fans around college football. While I do see Florida being a pretty competitive team this year, especially in this game right here, I just think South Carolina at the end of the day is going to make that 1 or 2 plays, maybe get the turnover they need to be able to seal that game, as I do think they are going to beat the Florida Gators. The Missouri Tigers are up next, and this is going to be an interesting game for me. I'll pull up my prediction now because I do have South Carolina losing this game. Missouri, I think, is going to win a game this year that they shouldn't. They definitely have some very underrated players in that locker room that I think could have some really good seasons. Missouri's one of those fringe bowl game teams for me. They're really, really close, and they're going to pull off a game that they probably shouldn't be able to win, a game that they're going to be an underdog in. I think Missouri is going to be very competitive against the spread, and South Carolina drops this game right here to the Missouri Tigers. Moving on to the Texas A&M Aggies. This is a make or break year for Texas A&M. Texas A&M is going to get a lot of wins at home this year. I think Kyle Field is going to be loud and proud. Jimbo Fisher's bringing in a new offensive coordinator, and by this point, I think a lot of those offensive woes that Texas A&M has had in some previous years kind of get figured out here, and I got South Carolina dropping this game to Texas A&M as well. So I do have the Aggies pulling off that win. So South Carolina, maybe not the start that fans wanted, is 4-4, but hey, you get a bounce-back game against Jacksonville State, a newly integrated FBS program entering Conference USA. It's going to take them a little bit to settle in. Jacksonville State right here, I see being as no contest to the South Carolina Gamecocks. Vanderbilt is up next, and although while Vanderbilt is improving, and they got some good players over there, they're still just not at the level of a lot of these top tier, obviously, but even some of the middle tier SEC teams like South Carolina. I got South Carolina being able to easily beat Vanderbilt. Kentucky is another team in the SEC that could be a sleeper. Devin Leary coming in. There's a lot of talent surrounding him defensively, offensively. This is going to be a very sound Kentucky team. But I don't think they're going to be able to beat South Carolina on the road late in the year. Kentucky makes it competitive, but South Carolina is able to go ahead and get the win here. And then it wraps up, of course, with the rivalry game against Clemson. They were able to beat Clemson in Death Valley last year. They get them at home field this year. And you know what? I'm going to flash my prediction up now. I think it's a second straight win against the Clemson Tigers for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Clemson's going to drop a game somewhere that they maybe shouldn't. I have full confidence in Cade Klubnik and whatever Dabo Swinney is doing over there. But one transfer coming in, Clemson's not really adding a whole lot of pieces. And I feel like South Carolina, again, is going to pull off another upset type game this year. You have Georgia and Tennessee on the road, but you get Clemson at home. Perfect storm. I got South Carolina pulling off what's probably going to be an upset against Clemson. May ruin their playoff chances if they already have a loss like they did last year, which leads South Carolina to finish at 8-4. Now, 7-5 I see is definitely being a little bit more realistic. You got some really tough games here at home against Mississippi State, Kentucky, Clemson. You got North Carolina in the neutral site. Don't really see them not being able to make a bowl game under Shane Beamer, but South Carolina definitely moving in the right direction. They'll continue to do so in 2023. That's my South Carolina prediction. Leave your predictions in the comment section below. And until the next prediction video, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next one. Goodbye.